Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Master Menopause Metabolism podcast with Andrea Tornes. Today, we're going to dive into something that I feel like is not talked about enough, and you are going to get an understanding of hormones and libido in women 40 plus. So, we're going to talk about libido as your hormone scorecard after 40, why sex drive tells the truth about your hormones and you can't avoid it, and libido, energy, and hormones, what your body is really saying. Let's dive right in. All right, so your sex drive isn't just about intimacy. So I think there is obviously that part. So I will, discuss that somewhat here is that intimacy, communication, all of that drives sex drive. We're talking about the pure libido side of like, do you even feel like having sex if you had the most amazing relationship with the person you respected and loved? It's really a built-in scorecard of how well your hormones are doing. And in this episode, I'm going to unpack the key hormone shifts that affect libido in women and why low desire is more than something that's just in your head, and how you can use your body's signals to claim energy, confidence, and pleasure. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit. So, back in my day, when in my 20s, 30s, all of that, I had a good sex drive, normal. Like, I wanted to be intimate with my husband. We were, 3 times a week or more, pretty much consistently. And that continued on pretty well, even through pregnancies and, postpartum, we'd go 6 weeks. And then when I was cleared, we'd be back at it. It was like something I desired, liked, enjoyed. And as a matter of fact, as I got over the age of 35, I felt as though I was desiring it more, enjoying it more often until I hit like 42, 43. And then suddenly I found myself not super in the mood all the time, like more wanting to avoid it, or everything had to be a specific way, or it felt more like a chore, or just really wasn't on my mind. And so that was weird to me. I didn't really notice it. And so meaning as women, we just kind of conquer and move through and think everything is normal. And I think sex drive for women is not at the top of the totem pole as on our minds all the time. Like we can make it work, we want to throughout our lives, but it's not like men. Like I don't wake up thinking about it or wake up wanting to have sex all the time. So when it kind of went away, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I don't have a sex drive. It was like this, it was more just like kind of went along with everything because I was also gaining belly fat. My sleep wasn't that great. My workouts were way over the top, too much, and I was under eating. And so, and then, like nothing was really going well. And so that then the shift with the libido just kind of went along, but I wasn't feeling good. Like, I mean, talk about a biatch. I was probably like, no one wanted to hang out with me at that point. Didn't even notice, just kind of more crabby, blamed on my cycles or how busy I was at work or whatever. But here we go. We want to really, just normalize this whole thing, why many women feel alone in this when they're having painful sex or not desiring sex, or it's not at the top of mind, or it's something they have to really get their body geared up for, especially after 40. So this is what's going on underneath the scenes and what I believe was going on with my body as well. So the big hormone players in libido, the first one is estrogen. So low estrogen equals things like vaginal dryness, discomfort, and low desire. So just having lower estrogen. And we know in perimenopause and menopause, like the first part of the month. So, I mean, it all goes along with ovulation, right? So you have more, you're ovulating, your body is ready to conceive. And so your estrogen is really high and it starts from day one of your cycle up to day 14, 15, where you ovulate. And then it goes down. And so a lot of women, even in my 20s and 30s, nothing I ever really tapped into, but my desire was obviously higher around ovulation when I could conceive, and there was more estrogen. So now, fast forward to perimenopause, where it's much more erratic. You don't know when it's low, it's high, it's different every day. You're going to have a lot more discomfort, not really wanting to, vaginal dryness. That makes sense when you think about it, right? But we tend to not want to tell our friends about that, or you'll hear your girlfriend talking about how great her vacation was and sex with her husband and all these things, and you just don't want to pipe up and be like, yeah, I never ever feel like having it, or we're having it once a week, or we haven't had sex in months. It's something that's very hard, I think, to talk about because it almost like emits some type of failure. I'm not saying every woman has a problem talking about it, but I know I did. I didn't want to talk about like that had diminished, because then you also are opening up to people, oh, are you having relationship problems? Like all kinds of assumptions, or, so you don't really look at it like this is normal. Then there's progesterone, which calms the nervous system. So without progesterone, you're going to have, anxiety, poor sleep, and then that kills libido. So progesterone comes in the second half of the month. And so again, in perimenopause, what's the first hormone to plummet? It is progesterone. So you're not having as good of moods. And then let's throw in, oh, I'm under eating, over exercising, and my schedule's jam packed, which is most 35-plus-year-old women. It's going to be definitely a libido killer. And then you've got little ones, or even big ones, teenagers kind of on the scene when you should be intimate. That also is a little hard to get over. So let's talk about testosterone. So I think this is the one that I felt like was the biggest player. Testosterone in men is obviously a lot higher, so that's why they have a lot more muscle naturally. They burn fat a lot easier. They have a lot higher, typically, sexual desire than women, because it drives desire, muscle tone, motivation. Okay, so too low testosterone equals meh feelings. It really isn't going to drive you to want to have sex. Let's look at cortisol now. So we talked about this last week about our stress hormone. When it's high, it actually shuts down our sex hormone. So our body is more like, you're not ready to procreate, to create life, which is all about sex drive for women. It's more like, I need to survive and I'm really stressed. And that could come from a myriad of ways. Like we talked about, like not getting enough micronutrients can cause that. Not having good sleep, or perimenopause in itself, creating our cortisol to rise higher, all of that. And then our thyroid affects our metabolism and energy, which directly ties to desire. So if our body's just trying to kind of survive and do what it needs to, and our thyroid is off, we are not going to be that desire. We're not going to be in a desired state. Okay. So libido as a hormone scorecard. So how can we tell how things are going, if they're getting better, if we're doing the right things, or if it's even normal? So if you're not interested in intimacy, that might be your body waving the red flag, ladies. So for me, it was like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought of sex in a week, 2 weeks, like my husband wants to have it, and I'm like, not that again. Oh my God. And it was more than just like, I'm exhausted, it's too late, because it was kind of that for a number of years. Like, I'm running a business, I'm working 14 hours a day, I'm working out, I'm coming home, I'm tired, like it's too late. It's more than that. When you basically, if you're just not interested, you're not ever thinking about it, like even on the ideal times, it is probably your body saying, yeah, things aren't quite right in the menopause or in the hormone area. Signs that your scorecard is off a little bit is that you have fatigue, or belly fat. Belly fat is just, that's the first thing I ask women. Are you gaining weight? And if yes, where are you gaining weight? Oh, belly fat. Okay, that's probably an issue. That's probably something with your hormones, but irritability, having poor sleep, low recovery from workouts. So that was me too. When I hit my wall at, 42, if you will, when I was eating 1100 calories, I was doing, 45-minute spin workouts, plus my strength workouts and Olympic lifting practice. And, basically eating the protein, had 50 grams of carbs. I mean, now I'm like, of course I didn't feel good. Basically, I was not recovering well from my workouts, and I was having belly fat, all the signs of metabolic dysfunction, but I didn't know that that's what it was. So then I started working out more, and then talk about having no libido weeks upon weeks, not just being tired. That was my body's scorecard. So it was like, oh, things are shifting. So when our libido improves though, and so that's what happened when I started reverse dieting. So reverse diet, if you guys don't know what that is, and it was a new concept to me too, it's where you are, consciously eating up to your metabolic rate. So, for most women, like I was eating 1100 calories. So I had to reverse myself out of that. So first things first is I took out the cardio workouts. So then that kind of gave me, I was getting more of the calories I was eating. And then I very quickly was able to go up to 1600 calories because I kept the hub protein without gaining any weight, started feeling better. My hair was better. My belly fat started to actually go away, but the scale didn't necessarily go down. And I was adding in calories and decreasing workouts for the course of like a year. And basically, the first thing that happened was, like I said, the belly fat started going away, my hair started looking better. The scale went up a tiny bit, but in pictures and in clothes, I looked so much better. And then I also noticed, oh, I actually am in the mood. Like, it wasn't like we were doing all this work on our marriage or anything, which we do, and that does help. So that's another whole conversation. Communication, being open and honest with each other, taking time. We've always dated each other, my husband and I, so that's a huge part. No matter what our financial or how many kids we had, we took a date night and made that happen. And I'm so glad we did. We prioritized communication. But aside from that, it was more like, oh, I'm actually in the mood, not even just for him, but for sex in general, not with other men, but like to desire for myself. And that was a big sign. I was like, oh, wow, cool. So that usually tells us that hormones are more balanced, energy is higher, and moods are stabilizing. So that was another part of it. I was not getting as moody and crazy around my cycle as I was previously. So let's talk about lifestyle, nutrition tips to really help you support your libido. So I don't want you to beat yourself up either, ladies. Like that was, I mean, I feel like we have enough pressure on ourselves. So that's not the goal of this conversation. It's more just like there could be some hormonal disruptions happening if you're not desiring or wanting to have sex and things are good with your relationship, or it's just even desiring to, pleasure yourself. Like that is another kind of indication that your body is in homeostasis and it's feeling good. But if you are that person who just isn't interested and your body is waving the red flag, that's okay, but it's time to take notice. That's all that this podcast is for: awareness, understanding, not to feel bad or beat yourself up. That's not going to help. But what you can do is you can eat more, not less. So eating more protein plus healthy fats for hormone production. But we don't want to overdo those fats. But if you are an incredible under eater and you have been for a long time, you can't just eat more all of a sudden, and you're not probably going to. You're probably going to be too scared to do that out of fear for gaining weight, and it's actually going to cause probably the opposite, honestly, if you do it slowly. So, one thing you could do is increase and bump up your protein by, 10% more. So if you are like, okay, I eat, about 100 grams, you could eat 110 grams per day and just increase that. Another thing you could do too, if you're a severe undereater and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to eat all this food, just add in some fat. So honestly, like I would just put more olive oil or some almond butter into my shakes, or increase my almonds, nuts, or have avocado. Those are all really calorie dense foods. You could eat more eggs with yolk. So these are all fats and easy ways just to increase the fat, to increase the calories, to start helping your body to get your, hormones back in place. Prioritize sleep and stress reduction. So for me, I went through a time where I ignored sleep, meaning I would get up, 5:30, get to work, go to bed 11:30, and, I would push through. And what ended up happening is it just kind of, I, after a while, burnt out, obviously. So I needed to kind of look at my sleep again. And either I needed to sleep in later in the morning or go to bed earlier at night. And so for me, it worked to, once I sold my gym, I had more time to sleep. And I took that time. And so now, I have a pretty consistent bedtime routine around 10:30 or so. I take the magnesium glycinate, plus I do the little bit of salty water and then my progesterone pills at night, go to bed, and then I wake up, around 8 o'clock. So when I have kids getting on school bus, whatever, got to get my youngest to school, then it'll shift to more 7. And then I also, alter that with my husband. Certain days he does it, certain days I do it. But either way, minimum sleep is 7.5 to 8 hours. And then the stress reduction. So women, we have a lot of stress and we put a lot of stress on ourselves. And so things you can do is making those non-negotiable times for yourself, making sure that you are, going out in nature, getting that sunlight in your eyes, not just through the window, but like getting out there right away, giving yourself 15 minutes even. You could do a qigong, practice, something where you're moving your body right away, some breath work, doing some yoga at night. And then the next kind of important piece here is that strength training. So strength training feels like it's going to be stressful, or maybe it's going to bulk you up, but honestly, it supports your testosterone. So a big thing that I do for women who have lower testosterone is we put them on DHEA typically, and in addition we put them on strength training, and that increases their testosterone, which also supports testosterone production, which in turn supports their metabolic and their libido health. Gut health. So estrogen detox is important. So we talked about how that estrogen, if it's too high and out of sync with your progesterone, or it's not detoxing correctly, you're going to be probably in a bad place there. So making sure that the gut is doing well. So constipation. So making sure you're going to the bathroom like regularly, that you're not going. And if you are, taking steps to really get that in a good place. So very simple things you can do is increase your fiber, like prunes, the good old prune juice. You can eat prunes. Like I actually get them from Costco. I eat like 4 or 5 a day. That's been a game changer, as along with magnesium glycinate that helps me sleep. It also helps me be more regular. And it's crazy, but the more that food you're eating and healthy fats, the more you're going to go to the bathroom and detox your body. So addressing that gut health. So, your sex drive is not vanity. It's not a sign of achievement. It's not even a sign of a good marriage. Honestly, let's take all those stories and cliche away. It is really about a sign of being healthy. So health comes from, we should be, when our body's in a good, healthy spot, we are, able to make and grow life, right? And so that starts with sex. And so having the drive to do it is a really important signal that says, you know what, my body's healthy. It's good right now. When women heal their hormones, like I did, I took that time to really eat more. And then I also am on an estrogen patch and progesterone at night. Okay, so that's an important part. I lift weights 3 to 4 times a week. I don't go crazy. I don't even do 4 times a week, honestly, you guys. 3 is like a really good week. And I'm just really consistent about it. And I spend 45 minutes each time. So it's not a ton, but that I think keeps the muscle, which helps the testosterone. And then I make it like my job to eat a certain amount every day and to feed my body so that I'm not starving it. But that basically will heal hormones, gives you more confidence in your body, and relationships skyrocket. So I want to invite you guys to DM me Libido for next steps and maybe a hormone assessment. So if you are really struggling, this isn't to beat you up. This is to say, hey, we can give you some support. I know how to kind of help this. We can dig in deeper, figure this out with you. So make sure to do that. But I thank you so much for tuning in this week. What a fun, amazing topic. Like, I feel as though, yes, it not only helps you have a better relationship, marriage, but even just it's healthy for your body, ladies, to be having orgasms and to have that desire. It is a huge scorecard. So I feel like that along with belly fat, like those two are two of the main topics that women are coming to me. They're like, I have no energy, I have no libido. Of course, I have no libido. It's kind of more like that. And I don't feel good and I've got belly fat. So those are all normal things, you guys, for perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. So then we work on how to re-optimize or to get those back. You don't have to live with belly fat, no libido, painful sex. There are so many treatments. It just takes a little bit of work on the front end. But once you do that work and you heal the hormones, suddenly things get so much better. So Andrea T here. I will see you next week.